Post-COVID Blitz, PM to hit the road. Scott Morrison will embark on a week-long tour through Victoria and New South Wales to reconnect with voters personally after months of COVID-19 lockdowns and focus political attention on the strength of the post-pandemic recovery. In a move to steer the government's political agenda back to a domestic footing and put the fallout over the French sub-snub behind him, the Prime Minister will spend the week visiting communities across both states in what Liberal Party sources consider to be a pre-election campaign salvo. I think it's coming, don't you think? Surely the day that we go to the polls is going to be called pretty soon. This is a pretty big indication.
You think there's a whiff of an election in the air? The question will be whether we actually get a budget before they call the election. And look, there are predictions that we won't go to a federal election until May. But clearly it has been holding your breath, politically to when these borders open, because otherwise you have the politicians basically trapped in their own state, unable to go out and hit the campaign trail. And we all know how important it is for them to be out there and hitting the streets, out there pressing the flesh as much as the journalists and the public may roll their eyes at the prospect of it. The Prime Minister needs to get out there and get across those borders. And look, Jenna, him trying to get into Queensland and also, into your great state, it's going to be quite some time before the federal politicians can get into WA or Queensland at this point. So, yes, the border comes down between New South Wales and Victoria and the minutes are being counted, but it's still a long way ahead before they get to Queensland or WA.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really interesting campaign trail, a mini campaign trail, because it would be good to see if next week we can move into stop talking about what happened with the French president and actually focus on domestic politics. So
please,
it's a good sign that this hitting the hustings. For sure. Let's go to the Daily Telegraph now, and obviously that beautiful photo of little Cleo and her mum Ellie is on the front page, but the story is pretty interesting. Higher and higher, baby. Worker shortage stumps the city. Sydney hospitality venues are in a war for staff, with young job hunters picking up dozens of offers in just hours, and some venues even posing as patrons to steal employees. The Labor-starved economy after 20 months of border closures means that venues are luring staff with incentives and high wages. With the unemployment rate at 4.6%, the staff shortage is the biggest challenge facing industry amid high demand for hospitality in post-lockdown Sydney. This is really interesting, Leisa, because last night we saw the front page of the Fin where big, white-collar firms were offering executives 20% pay increases to lure skilled staff to Australia into those sectors. What type of perks do you think that young people or people wanting to get into hospitality would require for them to sort of ditch all other options?
Look, I was shaking my head a few weeks back because there was a story where I think it was a pizza restaurant in Bondi was offering $2,000 as an incentive for signing on and taking on the job in the cafe or the kitchen. So that's a sign of how desperate our hospitality sector is. This is their chance to try to get back on their feet if they've managed to survive all the lockdowns and actually still have a business to open the doors. And now they have to try and find staff to get that business running. And look, the flip side to this is, like you say, in the white-collar world, you've now got the risk of Australians heading overseas to take jobs overseas, because recruitment firms are saying that an accountant, for example, is being offered 3 times the salary that they would earn in Australia to take up a position overseas. And then the other problem you've got is we talk about bringing in people from international, overseas countries. Well, they've got concerns about coming here because of whether they'll end up in lockdown. So the whole employment sector is in a state of flux as everyone tries to get back on their feet.